Hi there. Welcome back to the Great Ace Attorney Chronicles. Last time we ran into a little stumbling block along the way of trying to figure out what exactly Enoch's goal here is and why he's being a wheezy little liar dude. But we managed to find our way back on the right path eventually. Because, you know, again, these games kind of work like that sometimes. Now this statement here, that specifically mentions that there was not any spattering blood. Huh, you say that, but now I got some evidence that disproves you, and I'm pretty fucking confident it's gonna be the right one. So, kick that! Or, okay, objection, sure, whatever. Mr. Trevor, do you remember this camera? Gah. But that is a camera from that fateful night. Yes, we, borrowed it from the House of Horrors. It's the camera you took with you to the cemetery that night, Mr. Trevor. And? Is that supposed to be significant? This kind of camera is rarely seen in our homeland, so my colleague and I were keen to examine it closely. We noticed that the lens extends forward on the end of some bellows. And then, bada boom, bada bing, there's some fucking blood on that thing.
Hold it!
Oh, Jesus, who was that? Oh. Okay, I mean, I'm used to Van Dyke's voice, but he normally doesn't say hold it. That's usually my job. What's that? There, just on the bellows. It looks like a dark red stain. And I'm pretty sure it isn't from my wine glasses. Ah! That's right. It's a rather conspicuous mark here on the bellows, in fact. Good Lord, are you suggesting? Yes, my lord. It would appear to be a spatter of blood. I hope it is not the professor's blood. Something that could be confirmed with a simple chemical test. Isn't that right, Dr. Scythe? Me? It would be difficult to determine if it was human blood and not the blood of some animal. I mean, it is 10 years old. I'm not sure if the DNA is gonna still be prevalent there, you know? But yes, to test whether or not it's blood at all is simple enough. I propose that Madame Tisbel's testimony was correct, and that on the night in question, 10 years ago, you were spattered with blood from the gunshot wound. Well, and that furthermore, you really did witness the condemned professor emerging from his tomb. Gah. Gah! Oh, shit, now he's all out of whack. There's simply no way you could have forgotten such a traumatic experience. In other words, the only explanation is that you're trying to hide the fact that you saw the professor that night. But why? Why would he want to do that? Well, not for his own gain, it would seem. For whose, then? Who could benefit? Mr. Trevor is obviously lying in order to protect somebody. My goodness, he's shielding someone? Gah. Yes, my lord, and clearly, it's someone who doesn't want the truth about the professor coming back to life to be exposed. Well, counsel, who is it then? Okay, who the fuck do you think? Again, this seems kind of self-evident. Obviously, he's trying to protect, fucking Wilhelm Gottfried Sigismund Ormstein, because, 10 years ago, he was there. He is the one who actually killed the professor, after making sure, after faking the execution, he came back to finish the job when he was like 1 year old, obviously. But yeah, it's the good doctor, the solitary coroner, if you will.
Take that!
Dr. Scythe. The obvious answer is Dr. Scythe. Scythe. Whatever do you mean? Imagine if the convict who'd been sentenced to death was not in fact killed. Imagine if that was to come to light. What are you insinuating? And imagine if the convict in question was the country's most hated mass murderer. If it was a professor. That would be an unprecedented scandal. It would be straight up just a fucky-wucky moment, to be
Objection.
sure. This is beyond a joke. Need I point out that the dead cannot come back to life? What you're suggesting would mean that the execution never actually happened. Yeah, exactly. That's exactly what it would mean. Though, why, I'm unaware, but that's something I can figure out, later on.
Objection.
Once a man is sent to the gallows, he hangs. No one could escape. Not in Great Britain.
Objection.
But the fact is, there was a witness to the fact that the man did escape his hanging. But what will it prove, counsel? The implications of his conduct were not stopped at the supervising court, no? No, that's just straight up a conspiracy. That's some Illuminati shit. Okay, maybe not Illuminati, but it's definitely a bigger conspiracy. It would taint the honor of the entire wizardry from the ground up. Oh, geez, she don't look too happy about that. And it's exactly because of those monumental repercussions that Dr. Scythe would consent to any demand made of her by someone who threatened to expose the secret. Even if that meant being complicit in a crime. You mean... I mean that Dr. Scythe wasn't collaborating in Mr. Drebber's wicked scheme, she was coerced into collaborating, in order to protect her decade-old secret. She switched the dead body of Mr. Assman with the waxwork model, and fabricated the autopsy report. Gah! Oh, it's been a while since we saw one of those. Lord Van Sykes. It's been a while since we've done that. Pray forgive my freshly filled hollow chalice, and a whole raft of other discourtesies now. Goodness me! It's just the sort of tall tale Londoners would enjoy, I grant you. An executed killer rising from the dead. A Scotland Yard cover-up. A conspiracy at the highest levels. So let me ask you one thing. What's that? If the condemned man really did emerge from his tomb that night, only to be shot in the chest, who pulled the trigger and disposed of him forever? Okay, now that I don't know. I have no idea at the moment. We have too little information to work that out at present, I think. Well, yeah, that we don't know, because I don't think Enoch actually saw who pulled the trigger. I couldn't agree more. The Old Bailey is no place for wild fantasies. And have you considered this, my learned Nipponese friend? Considered what? Do you realize just what a dangerous endeavor it would be to coerce this woman into such criminal activity? It's tantamount to declaring war on the entire British police force and judiciary. Quite. Hard to imagine any sum of research any sum of money being offered for research could warrant it. To rely on some stage deception when so much is at stake would be madness. Well, I suppose. And this was no petty crime either. The victim was murdered. A man who'd already invested money in the venture, and who would be instrumental in future profits too. Yes, I had no reason to kill Mr. Assman at all. Or are you forgetting that his death results in me receiving not a single penny? The court is already aware of the contract between myself and the victim, no? Yeah, there is that contract that's been bugging me. There is a contract, that's very true. The motive for this case runs deep, though. I can feel it. Using threats to force the head of the forensic investigation team to cooperate is extreme. Especially for a government grant he had no guarantee of receiving in the first place. If the research grant was the aim, taking Mr. Assman's life would have made no sense anyway. Which means Mr. Drebber's motive wasn't money at all. He was just trying to kill Mr. Assman. Huh. I mean, I get. Is he poor now? Like, well, I know he was a struggling student before, but I mean, he seems to have made pretty decent money as a fraudster. But why? What was his motive then?
Your time is up, my learned friend. I'd say you have one last chance before the jury lose their patience with this charade. Let's see if you can back up your heady proposal, shall we?
Oh, man, I like how our masked apprentice had to fucking dodge, not get donked in the face with the hallowed chalice.
How do you explain why this engineer would throw all caution to the wind and threaten his own country?
At this point, I'm not prepared to listen to more of this outlandish conjecture without proof. So, counsel, present your evidence. Alright, who exactly was Mr. Assman to Drebber? There's a connection there that no one's seen yet. And I'm going to have to present two people. Wait, two? Oh, one's not good enough? Two pieces of evidence to show what it is. Yeah, slap your fucking face. Yes, my lord. I'm in it to win it. The evidence that establishes a motive and explains why the witness wanted the victim dead is right here. Well, there is one thing that I noticed, not even while recording this episode or the episodes past. It was something I was just looking through the evidence after, like, this was a little while back now. I was re-examining this, and it's something I didn't even notice at first, but there's something that's been, once you see it, it's kind of hard to unsee it, you know? And that is this right here. Mr. O. Assman somehow signed his name to the illustration printed in the article that Enoch himself has said kind of ruined his fucking dreams, you know? And that's strange, isn't it? Why would O. Assman's name be on this article? And we can confirm, thanks to the contract, that the signatures are the same, so it's not like there was some other Assman who went by the name of O. Which, by the way, there's not that many O first names when you think about it. Like, Odie is kind of a stretch, but, you know. But that's a tangent, not relevant to the situation. So I guess maybe that's what he means by two pieces of evidence, because, like, you need the signature to cooperate, the signature here. Also, this is like the fucking third or fourth time I presented the fucking article, but hey, it's pretty relevant to the matter at hand. So yeah, I don't know why actually at the moment I don't know why his name is here, but when we consider the effect that it had on Drebber's life, a motive does begin to make itself more clear. No?
Take that!
So take that, as they say. It's this newspaper article, my lord.
That was written 10 years ago, and every detail has been examined already. What can it possibly tell us?
That drivel should never have been written. It's typical gutter press nonsense that means nothing. Yes, on its own, it isn't particularly significant. However, when considered alongside another piece of evidence, it will completely explain your motive for wanting Mr. Assman dead.
What other evidence?
Counsel, you present your supplementary evidence without delay. The evidence which when cross-referenced with the fucking newspaper article, establishes the motive for the deed. And okay, so yeah, that has to be the second piece of evidence, right?
Take that!
It's this contract, my lord. Mr. Drebber, this is the contract that you signed with Mr. Assman. Yes, that's right. The very document, in fact. That proves I had no reason to kill the man. No, I'm afraid not. What? There's something very significant that this newspaper article and the contract have in common. Really? And it's that common link that shows very clearly why you were determined to kill Mr. Odie Assman.
It seems the defense has uncovered something the rest of us have missed. So, my learned friend, point out what these two pieces of evidence have in common. Where exactly is the link between this newspaper article and the contract?
Well, obviously, it's this signature.
Take that!
What these two pieces of evidence have in common is a signature. Yeah, exactly.
A signature?
The signature on the illustration that accompanies the 10-year-old article and the signature on the contract belong to the same person.
What?
As the court has heard, this illustration was drawn 10 years ago by the newspaper reporter who found Mr. Drebber and interviewed him about his ordeal. If you look closely, the reporter's signature can be seen in the bottom right corner of the drawing. Oh wait, so... okay, yeah, I guess that's kind of obvious when you think about it. So the reporter that found Enoch all those years ago was Odie Assman? The same guy who was the financier and head of some criminal organization? Huh. I guess he had to start off small. And if you look at the contract here, which was signed between the witness and the victim last year, you can clearly see Mr. Assman's signature at the bottom.
Let me see now. Good Lord, yes, they're identical.
Which is kind of interesting when you consider that signatures do tend to change for... Well, I guess it varies. Like, if you're someone who signs your name a lot, then your signature can sometimes change over time. But I guess if you're not a celebrity and you're not always signing shit, it would be relatively the same. But, you know, whatever. In short, the journalist who drew the illustration and wrote the article published about Mr. Drebber 10 years ago was a victim of this case, Mr. Odie Assman. Hoorah! Oh, he fell over. He died. Oh, well.
Objection!
But explain to the court why. Why would that constitute a motive for the witness to murder Assman?
Well, if you think back, you'll remember that Mr. Drebber talked about that article in his testimony. Yeah, he talked pretty, about how the article kind of fucked him over, you know?
Good bird robbing, you say?
Well, yeah, I mean, we've seen this before. Not too long ago, actually. Yes, exhuming fresh corpses to sell is reasonably lucrative.
But that is quite beyond the pale. You wouldn't bite divine retribution, sir.
Yes, well, I think I suffered retribution enough. The Daily Circus eventually unearthed my name and put it in print. It caused me a great many headaches. In the end, I had to leave the university. And it was the only paper with a bad grace to identify me unambiguously, I might add. Then I gave up on my dream of becoming a scientist. And it was all because of that newspaper article. So it was. At the time, you were a student of the University of London who dreamt of becoming a scientist. However, this single newspaper article changed your entire life.
Well, Mr. Aslan used to be a newspaper journalist, did he? He did, my lord.
Oh, so you can corroborate that. I guess before becoming a super rich financier, but oh well.
In fact, it's a widely held belief that Asman managed to position himself at the heart of his criminal network, thanks to the many dubious connections he made during his time as reporter.
Huh. Yeah, I guess working at like a gossipy rag like that would allow you to run into some, you know, less than reputable people over the years. So you had to give up on your dream and leave university. You lost everything. Eventually you found yourself working in the field of science, but only in the shadows. And all because of that article, written by Mr. Asman.
Enough!
Okay, kind of spooky. Stop this endless drivel about my life.
What? Explain yourself, Mr. Drebber.
Yes, it's true. I had to leave the university as a result of that article. But it was just the straw that broke the camel's back. What do you mean? Almost every student of science in the faculty was too poor to actually conduct any research. But they struggled on with their hypotheses anyway. We all did, only to have them taken by vultures. Sooner or later, you knew your ideas would be stolen and patented by some wretch or other, after all.
Good gracious.
Making a name for yourself as a scientist in a climate like that was a miracle only a select few geniuses could ever hope to achieve. Personally, I wasn't one of those geniuses, so it was hardly a wrench. Being forced out of the university because of Lowgate was the best thing that could have happened to me.
Objection.
Okay, that doesn't sound right.
Mr. Drebber, do you genuinely believe that?
Of course I do. Who's better placed to know whether or not I possess a talent for science than me? I'm sorry to say that your words don't ring true at all.
How dare you?
And I have evidence to prove it. How are you in a position to say anything about me? I don't know you from Adam. Fine. If you think you have evidence, go ahead. Show it. Oh, Jesus. Man, it's kind of scary when he gets angry. What could you possibly have to disprove the idea that I was happy to leave? That I was happy to leave university because I lacked talent? I think we know just the thing, don't we? But yet I'm not sure if, I'm not sure if I should share it. Well, what I mean by that is I'm not sure if I should end the episode here or not, because I don't want the episode to go too long, and we're already kind of at a decent length. But you know, this is kind of like a nice dramatic moment because I feel like showing what we know to be the evidence is gonna kind of, well, it's a dramatic cliffhanger, right? Because like, I think we know we have the trophy after all that he earned, that was found in his workshop, and they specifically mentioned that it's a prestigious award for a young scientist to have. Though, I'm curious if, why do I still had it around if he apparently didn't value it very much, because like it was kind of just laying around. Plus, he's trying to say that, oh, he lacked talent or whatever, but I don't know. I guess we'll probably figure that out once we actually present it, but regardless, I think we can wrap things up for right now. We can have this be a little shorter than usual, because last few episodes have been a little longer than usual, so, you know, balancing it is nice, and this is a nice climactic moment to leave off on, I think. But, so yeah, next episode, I think we will prove, once with some definitive evidence, that Enoch was in fact a talented scientist, and therefore him leaving university was not something he was happy about. in the next episode. But until then, though, I'll see you around.